Yo guys, what is good? It's your boy VGOK here, and I'm back with another video for you guys this week. Now, just like before, this is going to be a pre-market overview of Forex pairs on my watch list that I like to look at. So of course, as usual, we're going to be looking to get into the news, so looking into the Forex Factory and the investing.com economic calendars to see what news events, what fundamentals are coming out for this week. And then we'll be going into the technical analysis part of the breakdown, where I'm going to be looking into the pairs, looking for the supply, demand zones, the points of interest and areas to really look into. Now, of course, I'll say it again, if you want earlier access to these sorts of calls and more private mentorship, then please do check the details in the description below, and please do get in touch with me about that if you are interested, and we'll be able to see what will be the best fit for you in terms of the mentorship. But with that being said, let's jump straight into the market outlook. So jumping straight into this week's market outlook, what we're going to be having a look at is all of these Forex pairs on my watch list, as you guys can see. And we're also going to be having a look into the fundamentals of the week to come, so looking into the news events. So yeah, we'll definitely be looking into Forex Factory and the investing.com. So let's start off with that right now. Now, just a quick recap of what's happened last week in the news. We did have CPI news coming out on Thursday, and then all these other sort of smaller news events. We had Powell speaking, doing a couple of speeches last week as well. But the main thing to understand is 2 weeks ago we did have that NFP news week, which is what sort of moved the price on the charts the most, to be honest. So when we go to have a look at the charts in just a second, you'll be able to see that most of the charts are looking pretty similar at the moment, because they're still looking it's still fairly close to that sort of NFP news release, which caused that massive movement up on a lot of those currency pairs like Gbpjpy, USD, EU, AU and all those other ones that I like to look at, of course, causing that big drop in the dollar. For this week to come, as we can see what we've got going on, so just at first glance, we do see a US dollar bank holiday on the Monday, so potentially less volatility, less volume sort of flowing around on the Monday. Not to say we won't see any good moves on the Monday, but just keep in mind that with the bank holiday we may see less volume. And then we can look forward to Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. We both on all 3 days actually, we've actually got good news for the US dollar coming out at 1:30 p.m. Of course, we know that New York Open is at 1 p.m. UK time, so half an hour after the Open we're looking for a news event. So it's just little things to keep in your mind, that we may see some sort of manipulations at New York Open or some mitigations or whatever it is, and then hopefully for these news events to sort of propel our sort of movements ahead. So from what we can see on Tuesday, we've got the Empire State Manufacturing Index for the US dollar. Also some CAD CPI news coming out as well, so if you do trade the Canadian dollar, then please be aware of that. And then looking forwards, we do have a monetary policy statement for the JPY. So for the Japanese yen, we'll be looking at their outlook as well. Usually that's around Asian session, so it won't directly affect us too much, as we won't be on the charts, we won't be trading. But we'll definitely be able to see that will have some effect to it. So if you do decide to have any JPY trades open on the Tuesday overnight, then be aware that you may see some big moves overnight with that monetary policy statement coming out. Also on the Wednesday we have PPI news for the US dollar, so that will expect some large moves around then as well. And then some medium impact news on the Thursday for the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index and unemployment claims as usual for the Thursday. Friday it's a lot of medium impact news, but no real high impact news. Same on Thursday really, but this usually gives us a decent little move anyway for the dollar. So it looks pretty decent, sort of a medium sort of news week to come. And I'm just going to have a look into investing.com as well. So if we look at this week coming up, so as we look onto Forex Factory, we can see the news looks obviously slightly different. No mention of the, oh yeah, there we go, so we do have the mention of that bank holiday for the US dollar basically on that Monday. And then as we look forward to Tuesday, we can see at 1:30 p.m. So notice on here it says it's a medium impact news, only a 2-star news for that 1:30 p.m. news on Tuesday, whereas when we look over here, it's a high impact news, a red folder. So they do class it as sort of medium and high sort of differently sometimes, but at least it's sort of listed. I think this is more accurate, to be honest, in my opinion. And then as we look forwards to Wednesday, we can see obviously the PPI being that higher impact news at 1:30, and then a whole host of medium impact news to follow, you know, throughout New York session, to be honest, by the looks of it. Thursday looks pretty good as well with that the high impact news there. So here initial job claims is high impact on here, whereas on Forex Factory we can see that unemployment claims is only a medium impact news on the Thursday there. So something just to note on there, you know, just because it says medium impact on one doesn't mean you'll get a big sort of movement from it. And on Friday we should see just a whole host of medium impact news. We do have retail sales for the pound in the morning in London session. Existing home sales being high impact for the dollar on Friday, which I know is noted on Forex Factory as a high impact. So just to keep an eye on things. Probably this is going to be more accurate and more sort of detailed, I'd say. So yeah, that's what looks pretty good for me in my opinion for this week. So yeah, looking forward, first thing we're going to have a look into is DXY. Now obviously from a couple of days ago, or no, sorry, a couple of weeks ago, we saw the main you know, NFP movement around this area here, which I believe is it around there. Yeah, so around here we had this big redistribution of price over Christmas and New Year's, and then into the new year with the NFP news release we saw redistribution look to continue downwards, and we saw mitigations of this area to push price down further and further. Now of course we're looking to play continuations of this downtrend at the moment, obviously on the smaller time frame. So looking at these supply zones in here, we do have a liquidity build up here, so potentially price coming up to this area, manipulating these highs to then continue going lower. But we do have this 45-minute demand zone for the US dollar, so we can see it's within this base rally, and then probably refined down a little bit more on the 15 as well. So yeah, this is actually the 15-minute demand, which we've seen good rejection away from already in there. But yeah, still just consolidating, so we may see it continue to drop down and take this area out, or look to actually respect this demand zone and push price higher to these equal highs and potentially this supply zone over here. So on the short term, obviously we're looking sort of kind of bullish at the moment, but obviously we know it's only going to be looking at as a retracement to have that further move downwards. And when we have a look on the main higher time frame, so looking back on the weekly time frame, we can see how price has actually dipped further and further into this weekly candlestick. So this sell to buy candle, which we had as a demand at one point, price is moving very slowly around there and sort of consolidating just above. So I was waiting for that spike down and then sharp movement upwards for that manipulation. Instead, we've had a spike upwards into a previous supply, to then push further down deeper into that DXY right there. So from the higher time frame, to me it looks like it is going to be bearish and more than likely looking to take this out. So we're going to see whether we can get any sort of small retracements back up, potentially into this bullish sort of doji candlestick looking order block in here. So looking at that drop base drop or buy to sell candle, looking to get up into there and then look to sell off further. I think that would be wise. So ultimately bearish on the dollar, but on the lower time frames, if we can get some shorter time frame buys just for the retracements up and looking to take profits in this liquidity and you know the supply, then that would be good as well. So on the whole, that's what we're looking at for the dollar. Now looking at Eurusd from the higher time frame standpoint, so from the daily and the 4-hour time frame, we can actually see it's approaching this supply zone. You know, it's not too far away and it's getting there very soon. You can see there's obvious buy to sell movement within there. We did have liquidity build up just in there as well, right in there. So buy to sell candle, want to see what happens when price can get up into there. So definitely we'll be setting alerts as price gets closer. But as you can see, you know, we're still a fair distance away from that, you know, a good 160 pips away from that whole zone. So definitely, you know, opportunity to be buying up to that zone would make sense. And as we go down into the 4-hour time frame, we can see, you know, this uptrend in a lot more detail now. So you can see it comes into these previous demand zones quite nicely, strong reactions are upwards, and looking to continue going upwards in there. So we've got this demand zone in here marked out. I believe it's on the hourly time frame or probably the 30-minute time frame. There's something in there, basically demand zone, which caused this price to spike up higher again. So looking into that area there, we do see price rejecting back down into this area here, filling in this imbalance and continuation upwards. So at the moment, I'm just looking to see if we can get a clean reaction from this supply zone first to start with. It's sort of that refined supply zone within this major supply zone in here, which is based off this base drop, which takes out this previous demand. So looking, and as we can see, this major sort of supply zone which it's reacted in has already got this reaction coming down quite strongly. So We want to see whether we can get another manipulation buy to sell movement happening within there. So we want to see if that will actually take place and see if we can actually get euro selling off a little bit more. But ultimately on the higher time frame we are bullish, so looking to see this continue, increasing up until that daily zone we saw up here. So ultimately if we can look for some buy opportunities, and obviously it does depend on how market opens tonight for market open. So we want to see obviously what happens in that area there. But yeah, EU looking not too bad at the moment, and looking to play within these zones at the moment I think would be wise. Moving on to GBPUSD and looking at the daily time frame, we can see ever since it got to this area, almost got down to a you know, $1 flat for GBPUSD, and then obviously saw this big increase of price coming up in here. And ever since then, you know, it's been reaccumulating, finding, you know, strength ever again. And as we can see in here, point of interest in here, sell to buy candle with liquidity just above the zone. With NFP news release 2 weeks ago, we saw this price dip into the liquidity and into the demand zone, and then strong movements upwards were then seen. And yeah, that was the buy that we caught from that NFP news release, that previous case study video which I posted. So if you want a reminder of that, then you know, I'll put a link in the description for that trade right there as well. But as we can see, it dipped into the demand zone, sharp movement to the upside right in there as well. And we are seeing this continued bullish sort of trend starting to form. So initially it was this 4-hour demand zone in here. We can see a really nice example here of a rally formation which takes out this previous supply. So we want to see how price gets into there, and as we saw price getting into there, you know, 1, 2, 3 different times, and then still showing a strong rejection to the upside, so showing that price still wants to be bullish in that area. Then as we go into the lower time frames, we can see in further detail exactly, you know, where these demand zones sort of were met and what they were based off. So a nice little rally-based rally reaccumulation zone in here, which price dipped into, and then further movement up away. But at the moment we are getting strong bearish reactions in this supply as well, so just sort of going to be playing obviously within our kill zones to have those higher volume trades you know, come in, and so we're executing at the right times. So I don't really want to be executing you know, around market open tonight, middle of Asian session basically. So we don't want to be doing that. But from what we can see already, we can see this movement away has broken structure nicely above here. Price has retraced into this imbalance, and it is experiencing a sharp rejection upwards. So the potential wise for this is we're either going to look to keep rejecting off of this to continue upwards, taking out these highs. So looking to take these highs out, continuing upwards, or we're looking to see it you know, come up into here and then look to you know, experience that downwards movement down into here to maybe continue this little downtrend which is creating to you know, get into lower demand, or looking to take out liquidity below here as well. So they're the things that we're going to be looking into for GBPUSD. Moving on to NZD-USD, and from the hourly time frame, I think it's probably the best to have a look at there right now. We can see the previous demand zones which it's got into, so just going below this demand zone which I thought it would hold into. Obviously that was from NFP last week, it did go below, but then saw the big spike upwards again. And then continuation of these demand zones have kind of been met, but at the same time we are still reacting in supply. So as we zoom across over here, we can see that there will be a nice base drop in this area which takes out this demand, and also takes out these areas of demands as well, which cause these higher highs. So as we scroll across and see what sort of movement that got, that zone, big drop down, and sort of it has kind of been holding, it's not really gone higher than that since then. So if we have a look into that, and I believe that was from the CPI data last week, which caused this increase upwards here, but still not quite breaking above. So still looking at supply on NU in all honesty, and we can see that it's just started to get reaction in here. So potentially I'm hoping for London session or New York session, spike back up into this zone, you know, take out liquidity above this high, see some distribution forming, and we can catch a sell down. And you know, potentially look, you know, just say this is that rough position we're looking for. We can either target in this imbalance over here, right in there is a further imbalance down here to target, but ultimately if it is a downtrend we should be looking to take out this low at least. and challenge this low, either take liquidity out for it to return back upwards or to break structure and keep dropping. So that's the sort of trade we're looking into for NU. Moving on to AUDUSD, one of my new favorite pairs actually is AUDUSD. It seems to be giving really clean mitigations of previous zones. As we can see right in here, clean mitigation of this area, good movement away, proof that it's valid, and continuation up. We can see in here previous demand zones which keep getting mitigated and met quite nicely again for that continued movement upwards as well. And the main thing to understand is that the daily supply zone we had in here, so this rally based drop we were looking at for so long, has actually now been broken to the upside. So looking for continued bullish movement from that, because here we did think that supply was in control. Challenge of that supply in here, so battling between supply and demand, and then obviously demand wins in the end, and we can see price move higher. In terms of the supply that it can potentially see later on, I'm interested in this zone in here. You can see that it created a new lower low. It takes out previous liquidity over here above that high before it drops off, and there is a clean imbalance in there as well. So definitely you want to be looking within that sort of area for some sells. Obviously it's got to get past this thing as well, so maybe if it wants to take out liquidity above that, but that in itself would be another zone of interest in itself anyway. So that's going to be the next sort of area for us to look into selling this long term. Short term though, I'm pretty happy just to keep going along with this uptrend that is creating. So ideally looking for buys would be wiser, and as we can see, this demand zone in here has been given a nice reaction upwards, so potentially a retracement back into this sell to buy candle in here maybe. There's a 5-minute area in there which is still unmitigated, so that could potentially be our main area for buys in this region over here. Obviously we can set our alerts just above the zone so we know when price gets close to it, and simply we're just going to be looking to wait for this demand zone. Obviously there are other ones in there, so we're going to have a look at those as well. And ideally I think if we look into the 15-minute time frame, it's probably the easiest one to see all the different order blocks on. So in here we can see a nice sell to buy candle in there, and then potentially something in this area could have some potential as well. So multiple zones to really concentrate on and look into, but there's no telling of which one's actually going to be successful or not until we wait to see and monitor price action in those areas. If we see proof on lower time frames in these areas, then it's worth jumping into one of those trades. Now as we look in this area here, we do have this one last, I think it's on the 5-minute time frame actually, this supply zone up in here, which still looks pretty good from this high which created this lower low. So logically we should be looking at a next lower high for a continued lower low. So if that is what happens, then we'll definitely be looking to set alerts in there, looking for more supply zone entries in there, so some distributions to form, and hopefully we can get a nice sell down and take profit each at these demand zones would be nice. So at the moment that's what I'm looking into for AUDUSD. Looking into US dollar JPY, as we can see with the the death of the dollar pretty much since NFP, we can see that's been moving very bearishly in keeping with this downtrend. Previous demand zone which we're looking into has now been taken out, so this becomes a new supply, so something we're going to have to look into over there as well. So whatever takes out this previous demand is going to be valid for future supply. And as we go into the 15 and 30-minute time frames, we can start to see those zones form basically. So in here is where I want to be looking definitely for a supply zone. You can see it's that drop area which takes out this area here for the demand, so definitely we're going to be monitoring price in there. We've already got some sort of liquidity build up in this trend line over here, as so potential trend line liquidity already forming, but we're going to have another look into this lower time frames as price gets closer, and then on smaller time frames, if it is just looking to continue this downtrend short term, then we should see a reaction come into this 5-minute zone to continue moving downwards. So we're definitely going to be having a look into there, but macro zones, sort of higher time frame zones, that we're going to look in here for those sells. Now I'm not saying that this area isn't valid, I'm just saying that this area comes first, so it makes logical sense to approach this zone first, and if it does get taken out, then we can look at higher zones, or we can look at an opposite bias. Yeah, that looks pretty good for US dollar JPY. Let's take a last little look at Gbpjpy. Now it has you know, successfully reacted in this supply. Personally, I was hoping for it to get into a higher area than this area. It literally just tapped it and started to drop. I wanted it to get into these higher areas over here, but nevertheless it didn't really want to do that. You know, coming to this area showed signs of bearishness, and then eventually it's rolled over and dropped back down again. So in terms of GJ, I've not got much analysis on here. The only thing I do have is this area down here for demand, which is getting very close to now. So for the demand, we can see, you know, it's not too far away. It's pretty much like a 4-hour zone in there, I think. You can see the clean 4-hour sell to buy candle within there. We've already had one good rejection up. It has come back down again, so potentially looking for a liquidity capture below this low, getting into that demand zone, and then seeing accumulation to see higher prices ideally. So if we can see that happening, you know, we'll be looking at accumulation in this area here. Ideally, I think by the looks of this, again, it kind of looks like equal highs, just you know, before it dropped. So something I really want to have a look into at that stage there is, are those highs equal? Is there liquidity sitting there? Can we look to take that out at a later stage? So ideally, that's what I want to be looking into personally there. So we'll see what happens. Now, if this low is going to hold, then we should see, you know, it not really go lower than this. That's one option as well. And as we can see, last sell to buy candle on the hourly, you can see that it's been given a nice proof of demand. So we could, I think arguably you could say GJ is ready to go upwards. We're going to have to obviously align it with our kill zone, so we're entering at the correct times. But anywhere in this area should be wise to look for continued buys off this area. We can see that it's nicely accumulated in this area. In this movement upwards, we saw the break of structure. I think the significant structure that was broken was this one in here. So this, you can see, created a lower low, and then nothing goes above it until this move here. So I think it's definitely worth looking into that area for demand. And as we can see, you know, supply pushing price down, supply pushing price down, and then these are those continued order flow pushes downwards as well, and then eventually they do get broken by this long movement upwards in here. So looking into this area would be wise for GJ, in my opinion. If we can see price coming back down into that 156 region for GJ for a continued bullish push upwards, because we do technically have, you know, good demand zone in here. We've now got the reaction from the demand zone proving to us that it's valid. So technically next should be, you know, looking for our potential entries. So definitely we're going to be looking to monitor price around that 156 region for GJ. But yeah, if it does look to continue this big downtrend and failing to hold, then we'll be looking slightly underneath in this blue zone for that liquidity capture and sharp movement up as well if it is bullish. So there we have that full breakdown of this week's pairs and a good look at the fundamental analysis on Forex Factory and investing.com. That's pretty much it for the market outlook right now. But you know, if you guys did enjoy that video and learned something of value, then please do give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you are new around here as well. You know, drop in the comments what you thought of the video and any sort of questions you may have for me, and I'll be happy to try and get back to all of you. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video for more of that trading source.